this function VLOOKUP, there must always be more than 2 tables, because the VLOOKUP works in a way that it looks up, it checks for a value within a range of values and then returns something in the columns stated in that range. Okay, now I already told you what the word return means some time back. When someone talks about return, we're talking about coming up with a result. Okay, so when I asked you, if I'm to ask you right now, what do you think is the return key on our keyboards? Anyone to tell us? What do you think is the return key on our keyboard?
Enter.
The enter key. Very good. Marvin has said it's the enter key. So the enter key is the return key. So when you press the enter key after writing every formula, you are returning a value. Okay. Now we want to return grades. Okay, now these are names of students we have in our class. Let's say it is senior 4 or senior 5 class, people who offer computer, who take computer as a subject. So now they did a paper, and the paper was marked out of 100, and out of 100, below are the marks obtained by each of the students. John obtained 30, Mary obtained 75, Grace obtained 82, Paul, and so on and so on. But then we want you to use VLOOKUP to grade these students, okay? To grade these students. Before you do that, you should know what VLOOKUP does. I've said VLOOKUP gets a value. For example, if I could get that value, which is in B2, I need to look up for this value. I need to find this value within a certain range of tables, okay? For our case, it's going to be that table. So within that range of table, look for 30. And when you find 30, please return what is in the second column of this range table. That is how you can understand the VLOOKUP in layman's language. So let's do it here. The very first thing is you have to make sure that in that table, which is going to be our range, these details are sorted in order of ascending, meaning if there are values, numbers, make sure these values are organized in ascending order. But when you look at our table here, the table is not in ascending order, because you'll see that it's descending all the way from 90 up to 0. Don't mind about the differences in the numbers. I just put something there. They're not standard, because in some schools it's from 80 to 90 that the student will be given a D1 in a paper. But this is just for an example. Okay, so now make sure you first of all sort this table in ascending order. How do you do that? Like you've seen on the screen, I've already selected what I want to sort. There is that button at the extreme end near Find and Select. When you click on it, it has sort and filter. Filtering is to do with getting a portion of information and then displaying it. Sorting means organizing the data in some way of order, ascending or descending. Our interest is to sort. So there's an option for custom sort, but we don't need a custom sort, okay? Because we already have sort smallest to largest option there. So you just click on it, it does the sorting for you automatically. So now it has sorted in ascending order, 0, 55, and so on up to 90. Now, what you should understand is that these values are in forms of ranges, okay? It's like saying, if someone gets between 0 and 55, give him 59 or give her F9. If someone gets between 55 and 60, pass 8. Between 60 and 65, credit 7. Between 65 and 70, credit 6. Between 70 and 75, credit 5. Between 75 and 80, credit 4. Between 80 and 85, credit 3. And then between 85 and 90, give that person a D2. And then anything above 90, you can give them a D1. That is how you can interpret this other table. Okay? So now that we have understood the interpretation of both tables and the VLOOKUP function, let's go ahead and do VLOOKUP here. Now, like I told you some time back, you can either decide to type this function if you know its name and if you know how things are arranged in it, or you can go ahead and use the FX, which is the insert function button. which is that fx. The fx is called the insert function button. It's a button where we find a list of functions we can use in Excel so that we can select the function we want to use for a certain calculation. So I'll just first go ahead and select it. Let's first do that, and then I'll show you how to type directly. So when you're here, you'll notice that even our Vlookup is not one of the options which are being displayed for us, but that shouldn't stop you. There is that space they have given you to do what? To search for the function you want to use. That's why it is telling you search for a function. Our interest is the Vlookup. So I'm just going to go ahead and type there Vlookup. So now, since I've typed the word and it's looking correct spellings, and so when I click on go, it looks for the function. If it's available, it's going to bring it here in this other part. So we have Vlookup there. Now, the next logical thing to do is to click on OK. So now, once you click on OK, a second dialog box appears. Okay, now the dialog box is going to allow you to select the windows. Now, I want you to notice what happens in the formula bar. Just clicking on the function and selecting Vlookup, the syntax for a Vlookup function appears there. All what is left is to do what? To insert the arguments. So equal sign Vlookup, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. So now the lookup value is that value we want to check in this other range of table, whether it is available or not. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that value. So the value is already there. And it even tells you that the value is 30. Then I come to the table array section. The table array is asking you for the range, okay? The range of the table you want to use, okay? By range, we are meaning where should I use this table, from which part to which part. I am going to select, I just want you to follow. I'm going to select that, and I select the whole of the table. Now, I want you to notice that I have not selected the headers or the labels up there, marks and grades. I haven't, because they are useless in our calculations or in our presentation. So I've only selected what is useful, and I made sure I sorted them in ascending order. Otherwise, we shall be having a problem. That brings us to the next thing to do with cell referencing. Cell referencing, I told you, if you want the calculations to continue using a same range or the same value, we use what kind of cell referencing? Who can tell us? What kind of cell referencing do we use if we want to stay using a fixed value to perform a calculation? Which cell referencing do we use, Benjamin? Yes?
It's absolute.
Absolute. And how do we do absolute cell referencing?
You tap F4.
Okay, you keep on pressing F4. So when I press F4, I want you to notice what happens. I've pressed F4 once. So it has placed the $sign on both the names of the columns and the numbers corresponding to the rows. So there we have absolute cell referencing, meaning whatever calculation it's going to be, it's always going to use that range, because I have made it absolute by putting the $signs and the $signs in front of the column names and the row numbers. So now that is done. We already said we have captured the item we want to look up for in this range of table. And then after finding that range, after putting the range, which values do we want to return? In other words, give me the column. This is asking you for the column number of what I should return when I find this item. So the 30, look for it here. You'll notice that in these numbers, among these numbers, there's even no 30. What this is going to do is it's going to look for where 30 falls. That is why I had to first explain to you that this means between 0 and 55, give F9. So since 30 lies between 0 and 55, when it finds it, then I'm going to say by stating the column index that when you find it, when you find the range, return what is in the second column, because this is the first column called marks. The second column is called the grades. So now I'll just go ahead and return what is in the second column. Now, as you do that, when I put the second column, you can even see that it has already given me the answer here, F9. Okay, so since the answer is already there and everything we need is already done, And then you can just go ahead and click on OK. So now once you click on OK, you can go ahead and autofill this for the next cells. So there, now you can notice that we have 97 here. That was if had a D1 because 97 is beyond 90. Okay, so that is how we use VLOOKUP. That is the first way. The second way is for people who know VLOOKUP, how to do it. You already know that this is how it is supposed to be written, okay? Why would you go ahead and look for it in the insert function button? What I will just do, since that was the first method, let me just go ahead and remove this such that I can do it using the second method of just typing, okay? So someone who already knows how VLOOKUP works will simply come here, select the active cell, and it starts typing the formula, =, VLOOKUP, okay? For your information, these names, as long as they are correct, they are not case sensitive. By case sensitivity, I mean whether you write them in capital letters or small letters, so long as they are okay, the program will accept it. That's why you can see that I've typed VLOOKUP in small letters, but it won't generate an error unless the VLOOKUP I write or I type is not a correct spelling, okay? So the next thing to do is open the parentheses. Now, the beauty with this typing is, as you're typing, it even gives you a layout of how things should be running, okay? The lookup value, it is in B2. I'll go ahead and type B2, okay? Then, after the lookup value, there's a comma, I'll put a comma there. And then the table array. The table array is the table we want to search. It is here. I will click there and I select the whole range. After doing that, I'm going to immediately press F4 to make it absolute. Then the next thing to do is put a comma there. And then the column index is the one next, which I'm supposed to put. Since now I wanted to return things from the second column, I'm just going to go ahead and put a 2 there. Even if I don't close the parentheses and I go ahead and press enter, it does the job very beautifully. Okay, so now when you go back there, you'll notice that the program has gone back to change it to now the very format it had to be in capital letters, okay, uppercase. Then I can go ahead and autofill this just like that. There, that is how you do VLOOKUP. Now, Marvin, I don't know if it is okay. I don't know if you have understood it, but the only way to know is if you tell us that it is okay. Marvin, so is it okay? Marvin, are you satisfied now? Yes? Is Marvin satisfied? Okay. Okay, let's leave alone Marvin. The rest of you who were still having questions about VLOOKUP, are you okay now?
No.
Sebula Enoch is saying no. Enoch, were you present when I started explaining it?
Yes, sir, but I'm not getting the way you've done the second method.
The second method.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, the second method, I just simply typed it. I just simply typed whatever I was doing using this insert function button. You see now when I go there, that formula, I can get the format of it. The =, comes first, the name of the function I'm doing, that is VLOOKUP, and then the open parentheses, and then you deal with the first thing to do is get the lookup value. After getting the lookup value, get the range, which is down here. After getting the range, the column index, meaning the number, the index of the column you want to return. I simply typed it. I didn't do anything special. I just went ahead and typed it. Okay, let me go back there. Now this is what we did using the insert formula button. When I clicked there, I went and searched for VLOOKUP, and then I selected the values we're supposed to look for, and so on and so on. It generated for us that function formula there. But someone who knows that that is supposed to be the way the function formula is supposed to look like will not even need to going through this button. So it depends on how comfortable, which of the two you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with this, you go ahead and do that. If you're comfortable with the other one of typing, where you just go ahead and type the words because you already know the format of how the function or the function is supposed to be, or the formula is supposed to be, just go ahead and type it. Okay? As simple as that. There's not much difference between the two.